lesson on carbohydrates. Let's just jump straight in. So, what are sources of carbohydrates? We've got rice, we've got pasta, we've got fruit, we've got vegetables, we've got beans, we've got chocolate, we've got fizzy drinks. A lot of foods contain carbohydrates. So what's the function of carbohydrate? Carbohydrate generally is the energy currency in the body. So we know it as glucose. Provides the body with energy. And it also, carbohydrates are a source of fiber. Fiber is essential for moving food throughout your body and pulling toxins out of the body. So there are different forms of carbohydrates. So we've got your high GI, which is high glycemic index, which means it's got a high amount of sugar, also known as white or simple carbohydrates. And then we've got your low GI, so low glycemic index, generally known as brown, and are also known as complex carbohydrates. So they generally contain fiber and they release their sugars slower than the high white simple carbohydrates. So glucose is the main fuel currency of the body. We call it sugar. So there's different types, the high GI and the low GI, which we talked about. High GI is outside of the cell. So if you take an apple and you juice that apple and you drink the apple juice, you've taken the fiber away, you've taken the sugar out of the cell, so it's refined and it's very easy to digest that sugar. So table sugar, white flour, white bread, can of Coke, all these guys, alcohol, chocolate, sweets, crackers, donuts, pastries, these guys all contain acellular sugar. It's very quick to digest in the body. Then we've got your low GI. So this is unprocessed sugar. So think of the sugar inside the cell. So you eat that apple, you bite into that apple, you get the fiber, you get everything that's in that apple with the sugar. So brown rice, oats, sweet potatoes, apples, berries, these are all examples of foods that contain low levels of sugar because it is contained within the cell of the food. So how much sugar will cause a spike in your blood sugar? So let's say that 5 to 10 grams of unopposed sugar, that means that there's no fiber helping to slow the release of that sugar. Protein and fat, fiber, these all help to slow the release of sugar from the food that you're eating. So if you eat that apple that contains fiber, it's going to slow the release of that sugar. If you drink just apple juice, that's just the sugar has been broken apart and you just consume it, that's going to get digested a lot quicker. So glycemic load, I'm going to do a lesson all about this, but your glycemic load is the amount of sugar in a food relating to its portion size and how it affects your blood sugar. So if you eat 100 grams of a food that's high, if there's a high GI, so like cornflakes is a high GI, and you eat 100 grams of that, it's going to spike your blood sugar. But if you eat 5 grams of that food, it might not, like that size portion won't spike your blood sugar. So it's about being able to eat foods that will spike your blood sugar, but it's about the portion size of that food. We'll talk more about it, but I just want you to get aware of glycemic index and glycemic load. You can count up your GL for the day. It's based on your weight and your height and your activity levels, but it's all about how many GLs you can eat in a day without spiking your blood sugar levels. So how can you balance your blood sugars? So eating every 2 to 3 hours. Eating slow releasing carbohydrates, so your low GI, low GL. Eat foods that contain fat and protein and with carbohydrates. So eat protein with each meal. Eat some fat with each meal. Protein takes longer to get digested than carbohydrates. Fats fall somewhere in the middle. So the more range of macronutrients, so your proteins, your carbs, your fats, the slower the release of sugar from your food. And eat a breakfast that contains protein and fats. So you don't want to be eating a bowl of Lucky Charms, or you want to be eating eggs, whole grain carbohydrates if you're going to have them, and then your fats, so avocado, again your egg. If you're going to have oats, make sure you got some protein and fats in the oats. Don't drink calories. So try not to consume sugary beverages that contain a lot of calories, because that's just going to get absorbed so quickly and spike your blood sugar levels. Eat 25 to 40 grams of fiber a day. So this is going to slow down digestion. And eat foods from the legume family, so beans, peas, lentils, chickpeas. These guys will blunt the response of insulin. So insulin is the hormone that's released when you eat a food that contains a high amount of sugar. Legumes have the ability to blunt that insulin response. So if you are eating beans, peas, lentils, chickpeas, you're going to slow the release of insulin for the first meal and for the second meal after it. So just one thing to bear in mind with carbohydrates: bloating. So carbohydrates absorb water. If you take a slice of bread, you roll it up around your hands and you drop it into a glass of water, it's going to absorb that water and it's going to become a soggy mess. So think about it. If you are to eat bread, it's going to absorb water and it's going to make you bloat. If you take an egg or some avocado or a chicken breast and you drop it into a glass of water, it's just going to displace that water, but it's not going to absorb the water. So the egg, the chicken, the avocado breast, it's not going to cause bloating within you. So carbohydrates absorb about 4 grams of water per 1 gram of carbohydrates. And this is what's going to make you swell and make you feel bloated. You shouldn't have pain, you shouldn't have gas, but just to be aware that carbohydrates do bloat you. I'm not saying that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just to be aware of. So this is just all about your portion size. So for a male, unfortunately, it's 2 cupfuls, and for a female, it's 1 cupful. So 1 palmful, 1 cupped hand is a portion of carbohydrates. It's pretty small, and for a male, it's 2. So for a meal, you're sitting down, you should be having a cupped hand full of carbohydrates. Not 3, not 4, but 1 is the ideal portion size. If you have any questions, please email us. Hope you learned a little bit throughout that, and we're going to talk more about GLs in its own lesson. So glycemic load is going to have its own lesson. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon.